On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with Meridios mogul Patrick Clark, and he tells us how to build a business in a niche and how to rock LinkedIn socks off.
Like a mouse.
Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and it is my great pleasure to welcome back a second-time guest, the mogul of Meridios, as I like to call him, Patrick Clark. Pat, thanks so much for coming back, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm kind of excited. As I got your questions, I'm like, all right, now Kirby's really digging in. Not just your surface questions. These are getting real now.
That's
so
right.
I'm excited about it. Yeah.
be very afraid, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, let's jump to one of those. So one of the things I know about your business, Meridios, is you live in the healthcare world, and that's a big place. But I think you guys kind of operate in a not tiny, but a tighter niche inside of that ocean. So what are some advantages of that, and how did you select that niche?
Yeah, so I think that I'll speak first to advantages and then sort of, why and how I selected that specific market. From an advantage standpoint, I think the, marketing dollars are very heavily focused. We're really kind of focused in on where we put our dollars from a marketing perspective. Obviously, that's an advantage over somebody who is marketing to the world. I don't need a Super Bowl ad. And if I did, it would just be sheer mockery at this point in time. So Super Bowl ad, probably not going to cut it for me, but I can get very direct with my marketing dollars, and we can make them count. And so I think that's an advantage to having a niche market, a smaller market like that. The size of them. Right. I think the second thing that I would say is word of mouth is huge. Now, I would say if you're this can be an advantage and a disadvantage depending on how you operate business, right? But, word of mouth in our market, if we do the right thing, and I can tell you that the majority of our customers are customers that have been recommended, to us by other customers. And so that's an honor, but it's also a privilege you just sort of have to hold very carefully because if you don't deliver, you don't do what you say you're going to do, you don't be careful with your credibility, then word of mouth is also, sort of detrimental in a niche market because it can really, just turn on a dime on you and then everybody's not talking well about you at the same time. The last one that really came to mind was just this idea of competition really being limited, and maybe that goes along with the marketing idea, but just this idea that, a lot of times people will, if I'm working on a deal and from a sales perspective, people will say, well, who's your biggest competition? And I could say that over the 30-plus customers that we've had, I've not really popped up or fought against the same company more than twice. And so my competition is super limited. And, so what we say we do, nobody else in our market says they do that, right? They do other things that are sort of in the same vein, but they don't do exactly what we do. So we sort of own the space when it comes to that. And so when people say, well, is so-and-so your competition? I typically, I sort of go, well, are apples oranges? Well, they're both fruit, right? But apples aren't oranges. And so I'm able to, it's never an apples to apples comparison. At least I haven't bumped up against it yet. So,
And so how'd you land in the niche that you're in?
Yeah, it was so funny. I read the question. I was like, yeah, I have a horrible answer. It is, I was accidentally on purpose in this market. I would say that accidentally, mainly because it's just, sort of my background. Right. And I just sort of fell into this market, this specific EMR that we work with. There was a lot of specifics that were my background. But then after about 5 years, I took a step back to decide whether I wanted to take on venture capital. And that process actually allowed me to evaluate all the other vendors that are out there, the competition, sort of what else is going on in the market. And when I was able to do that, I made a purposeful decision versus just kind of going, Oh, that's just what we're doing. I mean, if you'd have talked to me in the first 5 years, I think I read this quote in Inc. magazine where they said, guys riding a tiger, and everybody's going, "Look at that guy riding a tiger!" And the guy on the tiger's like, "How the hell did I get on a tiger?" So that was kind of me first 5 years, and then I took a little step back. Took about 6 months really to evaluate that we were doing the right thing from a business perspective.
Man, I think anybody who has owned a business can certainly relate to that metaphor about the tiger for sure.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to dig in with you on is I think when a lot of people hear social media marketing, they think of Facebook. And I think that makes sense because Facebook's the biggest player. But based on our discussions, I know that you've really dug in on LinkedIn and have had some success, quite frankly, with that. So, for those watching the show, what are some tips you can give people on working that specific social network?
Yeah, the thing that came to mind when you said this was really the 3 R's, and I'm going to cheat because it's just it's because of who I am. The right content, the right platform, and the right media. So it's content and media are not the same thing. Content is what you're saying, media is how you're saying it, and then the right doing the right platform. We initially we've done some heavy work inside of Facebook, and after a while, and you and I have had these conversations where I'm going, I just don't think my client base, who I'm going after, is going to find me in Facebook. And I know that there's an argument, and people know they always look in Facebook. But I don't think for our type of thing, we're very B2B. It's very specifically in a specific, it's just really specific. And it just, Facebook felt like I was walking out the front door and going, "Hey, I'm over here." And I really wasn't getting sort of the traction that I thought, even though content was good, all these different pieces were good. So, when I changed my strategy to LinkedIn, I really, first I was now on the right platform because this is where my customers are. When a conference would come out, they would talk about the conference on LinkedIn, not on Facebook. And so I'm going, oh, okay. And it's very business to business, and it always kind of pet peeve about LinkedIn, right? You can put a pet peeve number 1, bing, right there, is just when people treat LinkedIn like Facebook. It's not Facebook. It's not meant to be like that. And so that's where it's really coming down to. Then we start honing in our content, and we're starting to do it in a way that's unique on LinkedIn. So instead of just going, well, I'm gonna, and I probably need to do more of writing articles and things like that. But we have a video show much like this one, Meridios U. Little plug for Meridios U. Hey, watch it. Right now, my mom is the only viewer, which is a little weird. Yep, Meridios U. Click the link. So it's stuff like that we're kind of honing in on the right media. I think once we get that, then it's just a matter of dedicating time, which we're doing now, which I think a lot of people don't do, which is when they get on these mediums, they're kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do a little bit of this, and then they don't see any traction. But this is like planting seeds. You don't even see the plant come up for 6-7 months, and then all of a sudden the plant comes up, and you're like, oh, it's just this big. It should be bigger. It's not going to be bigger. This is something you have to play out for a year, 2 years. It's a longer strategy. If you're not committed to a year or 2 year, don't do it.
Yeah.
Just do something else with your time.
Yeah. No, I like what you're saying is dedicating the time and being intentional too. And I've seen that one of the things I've noticed about you is you are not just posting. You are commenting. You are liking. You are sharing. You are engaging.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big piece too, and you're doing a great job with that. So the other thing that a conversation you and I have had is we're reading a lot this year. Both of us are. And I know that you've set a goal to read a bunch of business books this year. So maybe you can share, what are some of the best business books you've read in 2015?
Yeah. So I when I got this question, it was really hard because I had to narrow down. I had to cut things from the list. Totally. This felt very much like a voice competition. People should have Twittered in to keep things on the list. I felt very like, what's going on here? So I actually divided it into 3 different categories because business is pretty broad. But so first one would be finance. This one it was relatively easy. Profit First was a book. Mike Michalowicz. I like to call him Mike the Iron Hand Michalowicz. I'm not sure why. And I know you know Mike, so you can tell him that I love his book. But
It's a good one.
Profit First changed the way we do our accounting inside of our business. Actually, it made it work for small businesses like mine, and allowed me to understand it better. I wish I would have had that book year one in my business rather than year 10 at this point.
Yeah.
The Millionaire Next Door, Thomas Stanley and William Danko. I've got them written over here so I know their names.
Sure.
That was actually a really good book because it just brought forth a lot of research that I had not known about people who were doing the right things and getting where they wanted to go. Those were two finance books that I highly recommend. Business Process, I'm going to say that these three, you have to read all three to get an understanding of it. Scrum, The Art of Getting More Done in Less Time by Jeff Sutherland. The Phoenix Project, which was a little bit of an oddball book because it's about IT and DevOps and some things like that. But what it did for me was it actually made the Scrum problem, not the problem of Scrum, but the solution of Scrum make sense. Because I literally, as I listened to it, and they were like, "Oh, and Dave's always busy, and he never," and I was like, "Oh, I know who Dave is in my organization." I was able to identify and then go, "Oh, now I see more about this process, this lean manufacturing process, and how it fits with my specific industry, and what it means." The Lean Startup by Eric Reyes, that's a great one. I think that had I read that one first, again, I'm not sure that I can apply the same principles. I needed to read them in order. Scrum, the Phoenix Project, and then the Lean Startup was really the three that, from a business process perspective. Okay. Personal development, I got 3. Okay. 12-week work year, okay. I need to read that one again. 12 times I think I need to read that. That one was great. Take the Stairs, Rory Vaden. He's great, and it just seems like every time he's talking to me, which is uncomfortable after a while, because you start to wonder if he's like watching my life and then writing a book about it. Yeah. And then after reading those two, and again, it's funny that the order matters, but I really feel like the compound effect, the art of really doing something, making a small change, and then watching it change over time. That's what would be a third one that I would add in that personal development category. So those are my books. I'm a little bit of a book nerd. So
no, those are really good, and I think I've read a bunch of those this year myself, and just finished The Compound Effect. And one of the things I said was, "Gosh, I really want my daughters to read that because I think it what it does is it sets you free a little bit. It makes you understand that you can make big changes in your life without making giant sweeping changes in your life right now." Which is to me, it makes it seem very attainable. So, all right, man, you've answered my 3 questions. Do you have one for me?
Yeah. So I think both of us have set the goal to reading 50 books this year. We're close to the end of the year here, so we're coming down to the last several books. We even had a conversation, I think, earlier about, okay, so what are you going to do for your last 3, and that kind of thing. So, which is great, and I've really kind of enjoyed the process of rifling through books, and I've done some bigger books and some smaller ones. But one of the things that I have found is there's a few of them, and I even mentioned one where I'd just like to just go back and rehash that book just because I read it or I listened to it and I got through and then I went, okay, I heard all that, and I feel like there's way more in there than what I'm giving it credit for. And so I'd like to go back and really get a deeper dive into this specific book. Is there any one book that you would, of course, jump into, or are there a couple that you would be like, yeah, I need to read that one again?
It's a great question. So there's one book that I've read a bunch of times that I could read again, and it's E-Myth. You and I have discussed this in the past. I have not read that this year, ironically, just because I'm reading all new stuff. But every time I read E-Myth, I find myself in a different place in the progression of where I am as a business owner. So, and I don't even have that on my list, but as you were asking the question, that pops into my head. Yeah. The 3 from this year that I would probably read again is the 10X Rule from Grant Cardone. If he's over the top, but if you need, you've listened a little bit of his stuff. If you need like a something to listen to on the treadmill for 20 minutes in the morning to kick yourself in the pants to get you going, that's one that just reminds you that if you want to reach your goals, you have to work harder than you think you do. And so that one's really cool. I think you can definitely listen to that one. The Sales Acceleration Formula, written by Mark Roberge. He was the fourth person at HubSpot, and it's a book on sales process, about creating a process in sales that you can plug people into and continue to grow. That's one that, it frankly, is a different way of thinking about sales than I personally think about. And so I listened to it, actually the book I listened to, and I think I need to go back and and go through with notes and really dig into it, because I think there's more I can dig out of that one. At Profit First was actually on my list of ones I want to go back through. As you said, not complicated, but I think just reminder, because I also read that this year. We also changed the way. And then I don't have it on my list, but Procrastinate on Purpose is one that I think reading now I might get more out of than when I read it earlier in the year. But that was a really good one too. So those are a few books that I'll probably kind of dip my toe back into again. But yeah, it's been a heck of a journey over the 47 so far.
Yeah. I think we're on pace together.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty excited. I'm actually pretty excited to be done.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you taking the time, and we've done it now twice. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, likewise.
All right,
thanks,
man.
Kurt.
That wraps up another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, but wait! Can you do me a favor? Please subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done it already, the way to do it's right over here. And hey, if you want to watch the last episode, check that out over here. Again, before you leave, subscribe!